Welcome to On the Vineyard. I'm Monica Brady-Myrov, the publisher of the Vineyard Gazette Media Group on Martha's Vineyard. We're so glad you're here. On the Vineyard is sponsored by Crane Appliance.
All right, so we have lots of 8 and below, which is good.
It was a very early morning for more than 60 kids and their families last Saturday for the 51st annual Kids Trout Fishing Tournament. They gathered at dawn at Duarte's Pond for a chance to hook a fish and a new bite. The kid who caught the largest trout won a bike, and so did the kid who caught the largest species of any fish. And there were lots of trophies. The event is sponsored by the Rod and Gun Club, which stocks the pond with trout. Jackie Millard is the manager.
The kids enjoy themselves. They get hot dogs and donuts at 5:30 a.m. They're happy. The adults get coffee. I tried to bring like 3 different things. We had a Keurig, lots of hot chocolate. So they love the hot chocolate. People were getting here at, I guess, 2:30. Someone told me they set up. Someone slept in their car since 10:45 p.m. And they're excited. They all have to go to soccer after, so they like get it out of the way.
Coming up, the steamship is under pressure to set term limits for the board that manages the authority.
It's a complicated board. There's 5 ports, and not everybody wants the same thing, so it's kind of a bit of a tug of war.
We'll hear more on that from Ethan Genter in a moment. But first, it's piping plover nesting time on the Vineyard. Be very careful walking on the beach so that you don't step on eggs by accident. The piping plover eggs look like speckled rocks, and the birds decorate the sand around the eggs with broken seashells. It's a beautiful, loving way to care for their eggs, but it's also super easy for a person to step on or a dog to trample. Mass Audubon has teams of people busy monitoring and locating piping plover and oystercatcher nests, and educating beachgoers about the birds. And many beaches, including State Beach, prohibit dogs during this delicate nesting time. That's the sound of the historic press in the Vineyard Gazette offices in Eggertown printing the paper. Let's go upstairs and see what's happening in the newsroom with Editor-in-Chief Bill Level.
Hello, Monica. Turning now to Ethan Gentner for the news. There is a plan that has resurfaced, a bill to set term limits for the steamship governors. Dylan Fernandez has put this for us at the State House. It is a bill that came up a few years ago, but is coming around again. Ethan, you want to break this down for the listeners?
At the start of the legislative session this year, Dylan Fernandez, who used to be our state rep and is now the state senator for Falmouth and other mainland communities, filed this bill. It would put 3 terms on for steamship governors. They currently serve 3-year terms. There's no limit. The idea here is a lot of people are seeking new blood on the Steamship Authority. There are some long-serving members on that board. It's something that Citizens Action Group has now been calling for. So we're going to see how it all comes out this time. It didn't gain a lot of traction the first time around.
There are 5 Board of Governors that represent the Vineyard, Nantucket, and then the mainland. And what is the longest-serving member so far?
We've got 2 who have been on the board for over a decade. Rob Rainey has been there the longest. He took over for his father. Moira Tierney, the New Bedford member, also took over for her father in a strange twist. They've both been there over a decade. Bob Jones, the Barnstable rep, he will be at a decade at the end of his term. Our rep, Jim Malkin, is one of the newer ones, as well as Falmouth. Peter Jeffrey, he's only been there for a couple of years.
There has been a lot of change of leadership within the Steamship Authority itself. Now, this is the governing bodies. Now, is this a big deal, really?
It depends on who you ask. The Dukes County Commission, who appoints the Vineyard member, was very in favor of this. They voted unanimously this week to send a letter to the state legislature in support of this. Obviously, Dylan Fernandez feels this is a thing. He's filed it a couple times. But, I talked to Peter Jeffrey, who is the Falmouth rep. He has been critical of the Steamship Authority, the way things run. He's not shy about saying his feelings. And he was saying, this isn't, for me, kind of the biggest priority. There's a lot of things he'd want to solve, but this isn't the one he sees the main issue. Rob Rainey said similar things. He says, just because someone's been on the board for a long time doesn't mean that they aren't bringing new ideas or they're stifling, going in the same way. It's a complicated board. There's 5 ports, and not everybody wants the same thing, so it's kind of a bit of a tug of war. This would shake up the board. 3 members would be, by 2026, would be past 10 years. So it could make a large difference. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and this is just the beginning of the story. They're filing a bill, but it has a long way to go, correct?
Yeah, it's just the beginning of this, rumblings. If anyone has followed the State House, things don't move quickly there. And like I said, past attempts at this did not gain much traction.
All right. Thanks, Ethan. Turning now to the arts with Addison Antonoff, who checked in at the Martha's Vineyard Playhouse, which opens next week with a stage reading about the life and work of artist Lois Mailou Jones. She was an incredible painter, spent a lot of time on the vineyard and around the world, and is really sort of an icon and pioneer. Addison, so you got to actually hang out with the cast and crew this week as they're starting to begin their work. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so the Playhouse started rehearsals this week for a workshop of a show called American Artist Louise Mailou Jones. It's a 4-person cast exploring the life of this artist who has ties to the Harlem Renaissance. She summered on the vineyard for many, many years. But she, like you said, she traveled the world, and just kind of looking at her personal history with her family and her friends, kind of getting the personal element of this historic artistic figure.
And for listeners who don't know Lois Mailou Jones's work or her career, she has her paintings in top museums around the country.
Yes, she's best known for her paintings, but she did textiles. She grew up coming to the vineyard and would tie-dye, but mostly paintings are what she was best known for. She's got her art in the Metropolitan, the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. She taught art at Howard University for many, many years. Really incredible artist who experimented in a lot of different styles, had a lot of difficulty getting her work into the major exhibits in the United States because she's a Black artist. So throughout her career, she would have occasionally a white friend of hers submit her work. There's a story in 1941. She, at that time, had studied at Academy Julienne at the school in Boston at the museum. She was teaching at Howard University, and she wanted to submit a piece to the Corcoran Gallery in D.C., but she had to have a white friend submit it. It's a painting of Gayhead. It actually wins a prize for landscape painting, but she couldn't submit it herself because the gallery prohibited Black artists at the time.
And you said, in addition to sometimes getting a white person to present the paintings, she would also just mail the paintings in with her name so they wouldn't know that she was Black. And then later, when they found out, she said, look how surprised they were.
Yes, that was something that she did.
The other thing I loved is you talked about, her as part of the Harlem Renaissance and being part of the island. She was neighbors with Dorothy West, so there was this great bunch of island inspiration in the story. Now, it's a stage reading. For those who don't know, what does that mean?
Yeah, of course. So a stage reading is kind of a couple of steps before you get to a full production. So actors will have scripts and they'll read the show to you. Part of the reason they're doing that is because this is a workshop. So they're spending this week and next week working through the script, making some edits, perfecting the dialogue as much as they can. So they're going to read it, and it's a chance for audiences to see what this play looks like now and potentially offer some feedback, probably get some more edits afterwards. But it's kind of a step in the process of creating a new play, which the Playhouse does a lot of development for new work. Actually, some of the shows this season had been workshopped or had premiered originally at the Playhouse earlier.
Great. So it's really important for the audience to be there and hear their reactions. Wonderful.
You can read more on these stories and all the news for free at vineyardgazette.com. One thing you can read in the Gazette is a story about a dead minke whale that washed ashore on Black Point Beach in Chilmark last weekend. The whale was 27 feet long and weighed approximately 6,000 to 7,000 pounds, according to the Natural Resources Department of the Wampanoag tribe of Gayhead-Aquina, which is part of a team investigating why the whale died. Have you ever wandered down Davis Lane in Edgartown and peeked in the window of the former Davis Academy? I have, because the Gazette offices are next door. In this month's Martha's Vineyard Home and Garden magazine, you can do more than just look in the window. You can see amazing photos of the interior and learn the story of the couple who bought the house and turned the inside into a playground of local art, bright colors, and a lot of personality. The issue is on newsstands now, or you can subscribe. Hey, there are 2 plant sales you need to know about this weekend. The Greenhouse of Martha's Vineyard has its annual plant sale on Saturday and Sunday, and the high school horticulture program has its fundraising plant sale on Saturday. And the Martha's Vineyard Island Weddings magazine wedding and event conference was a huge success. Trends in catering, florals, and decor were center stage, and I can just say the flowers from Don Aroma's were amazing. If you want to see what I'm talking about, listen to this podcast on our Vineyard Gazette YouTube channel for a video of the vendor party showcase. It's still town meeting time. Next week is Aquinas, and voters will decide on spending more than $500,000 to improve municipal infrastructure, including town hall and other town-owned properties. But gas-powered leaf blowers are not on the warrant, as they were in the 5 other towns. For a reflection on town meeting, we turn to Henry Beadle Huff, the former publisher of the Vineyard Gazette, who wrote about town meeting in the 1975 book Mostly on Martha's Vineyard. Town meetings in the old years began in the morning, and while the first routine articles were being voted, the Vincents and others would be driving in from the Great Plain and hitching their horses comfortably. Gradually, the town hall filled up, and by the time the moderator, who was then Beriah T. Hillman, reached the controversial issues, all interested parties were on hand. Today, town meetings are in the evening and don't start unless there's a quorum. Our theme music is from island composer and musician Michael Hayden. If you like the show, please follow us so you don't miss an episode, and tell a friend who loves the vineyard. Thanks to our sponsor, Crane Appliance. Many people think Crane's prices are more expensive. They can actually be less expensive, as they often have access to rebates for select brands that the big box stores don't. Crane Appliance, they call the Cape and Islands home. I'm Monica Brady-Meyerhoff. Thanks for joining us on The Vineyard. Talk to you next week.